Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Enclave Intel Officer. That's the guy you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the second part of the video we are going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment, and everything else you need to know in order to recreate the character, if that's what you want to do. So what we're going to take a look at exactly here today is we're playing as a rather generic non-stealth commando build. So that's the overall premise here. But what I wanted to take a look at is something I was waiting for quite a while. And for those of you who don't know, ever since yesterday's update, the Steel Rain update that introduced legendary crafting, we are finally able to get our hands on a legendary Enclave plasma rifle. Um, you can see that in my hand here. Now, the Enclave plasma rifle is a bit of an interesting thing because right off the bat, when the game came out, this thing was available. The problem is you can pretty much only buy it from the Enclave vendors, or you can get it as a drop from Enclave events or sometimes from bosses, as far as I remember. Um, the problem is you can't really learn modifications for it. You can either find pre-made modifications, you know, these little wooden boxes, in order to modify the weapon, or you can just have luck at the vendor or with the drop to get a version that already is modded like you want to. Now, I was, well, rather unlucky. I didn't really find anything too interesting here, but at least I found a weapon with a reflex sight, which helps us a little bit with our bats gameplay here, as well as our accuracy. So we're talking about less AP cost and a bit of better accuracy, but that's about it. Other than that, the weapon boasts a little bit more base damage than the standard plasma rifle, which is obviously a nice thing. We're taking that. And other than that, it has a bit of a unique look to it, meaning that the colors are a bit different. They are more in the turquoise. Is that a word? I'm not sure how the English phrase for it is, but yeah, they have more of a greenish, bluish color than the rather straightforward green that you would know from a standard plasma rifle. Bit more about the build itself here is we're playing basically with a very high AP refresh build. So the problem with both the plasma as well as the Enclave plasma rifle is that they are relatively similar to the 10mm submachine gun. For those of you who don't know or never tried that out, what I found a bit problematic with it is that in order to reserve ammo, which is rather hard to come by, you want to use this thing in VATS. The problem is that you have to look at this real quick here because I don't have the... Well, we have the carry weight capacity to carry this with us. Um, Back to the topic. So you have a rather hefty amount of AP cost per shot, meaning that you can't really reliably take down a lot of enemies while staying in VATS with this weapon. So what I wanted to do is I was utilizing a armor set that I'm pretty sure I have shown off in another video with basically 4 AP refresh pieces. And together with all the AP refresh perks that are available, we can really replenish our full AP bar really fast, so therefore we can still reliably use this thing in wets. So as you can see down there, our whole AP bar replenishes within a few seconds, so therefore we can definitely use this thing in wets. It works rather well with with free aim as well. The only problem I found was that, yeah, as I said, I was running through ammo relatively fast, which is just something I wasn't really happy with. Plasma cartridges aren't the easiest thing to come by. We were using a primed receiver here, which is basically the only modification that you can actually learn for the weapon, meaning that we are using ultrasight ammo, which in terms of energy ammo, and especially so with plasma cartridges, I find it way more easy option in order to maintain a high count of ammo. Just because, yeah, with all the necessary perks and so on, I have ammo factory at rank 4, I think it is, rank 3 or 4, and I can make like 450 ultrasight cartridges in a single go, which means I'm not relying on using so many copper and so on. Copper and plastic are mainly the thing I wanted to spare a little bit on. And as you can see here, we were a bit unlucky with the Scorched Beast because it didn't really land, and therefore it was a bit harder to take down, but overall it wasn't too much of a problem. Now, where is this motherfucker here? Okay. A Gourmand's Revolutionary Sword. Well, I guess we can live without that. The Gourmand's effect is definitely something I want to check out, but to be honest, on a Revolutionary Sword, it probably won't be the best thing in the world. And yeah, Cloaking Piece, we can live without that as well. So let's just move on here. Talking a little bit more about the build itself. As you can probably tell, we were using VETs primarily. It obviously can happen that we run out of AP, but as I said earlier, we replenish it very fast. And I found that this was the best way to make the weapon usable without burning through an excess of ammo. So you're still running through quite a few of ultrasight cartridges, but overall it's definitely a manageable amount. And other than that, the damage output is really respectable. Like, we can definitely dish out quite a lot of damage in small bursts, which is a cool thing. Um, I mean, in terms of aesthetic, it's quite obvious why we were going for this guy here. Really like the outfit, by the way. It's very well made, in my opinion. And for some reason, I really felt like the Flamer jetpack went very well with the outfit, even though it doesn't make any sense or anything. But just gives it this, I don't know, like futuristic World War II vibe, if that makes sense. Something like you would maybe see in a Wolfenstein game or so on. And really fits with that wacky kind of energy weapon. So overall, I was quite pleased with the aesthetic here. We have to reload relatively often, as you can see here, even though I'm very much prone to reload prematurely, so keep that in mind. You can definitely just go on for a longer while if you want to do so. And the reload is relatively fast, so there's not a lot to do wrong here. So what can I say? Basically the interesting thing was, yeah, first thing I did yesterday was basically grind for legendary cores a little bit, just in order to craft a legendary version of this weapon here. Basically, the two weapons I were most excited for finally getting legendary versions of were first and foremost this one here, a Enclave plasma rifle, and the other thing was a alien blaster. Funnily enough, the very first time I tried crafting a legendary version of this weapon here, I was actually relatively satisfied. I can take that away right off the bat. We are using a Mutants version with better VATS crits and which breaks 50% slower. Overall, obviously, this isn't the greatest effect combination in the world, but let's take a look. Well, I think we can live without bashing damage. Take the 10mm though. Not the greatest effect combination in the world, but it did a few things right that I was pleased with. First and foremost, my go-to approach was to use VATS all the time, so therefore VATS crits is a perfectly fine effect I'm taking any day, giving us just a bit more damage overall. And the other interesting thing here was the Mutants effect, which usually isn't something I really seek out. Obviously, it's not the best effect in the world, but first thing I was interested in is, if you don't know, this perk got a buff in the latest update, meaning that nowadays, instead of just giving you 10% extra damage when you're mutated, it gives you 5% per mutation, and as far as I know, this caps out at 25% extra damage. We are running around with 6 mutations, I think, so as far as I remember, we should be able to take full advantage of that effect now. And while there are certainly effects that give you more damage, think about stuff like junkies, anti-armor probably is a bit better as well, or, well, obviously bloodied would be a hot contender here. But yeah, 25% extra damage is noticeable, other than the 10% we got previously. And yeah, also fits thematically relatively well in my opinion, because the Enclave is very invested in mutations. They made a lot of research on the topic, and Obviously, you get the mutation serum recipes from the Enclave, so therefore I found this worked very well. And yeah, since it got a buff, I really wanted to take a look at the mutation at the effect anyways. So I was rather pleased with the weapon in and of itself. And even the 50% slower breaking effect actually is not really bad on this weapon here, for the simple reason that yeah, energy weapons tend to break relatively fast. Now it's gotten better with laser weapons, but I found that before this one here I was using a quad faster fire rate, less VATS cost standard plasma rifle, and it was breaking relatively often. Like, not crazy or anything, you could definitely use it, but I tend to find myself relatively often at the workbench just to keep my weapon going, which was not a deal breaker, but rather frustrating. So overall, yeah, I take the effect every day. It's quite nice, and yeah, obviously I would have preferred something like less VATS cost. That would probably have been my favorite effect here as a third effect, but other than that, yeah, there's really nothing we desperately need here. Not really anything added that I really like in terms of third effects when it comes to a new update. There are some rather interesting secondary and primary effects, but yeah, in terms of tertiary effects, especially for weapons, I found that there was nothing I was really seeking out or anything. So I decided to just go with this weapon here. Worked relatively well. I took it out for a little test, and the build was obviously finished. I was definitely ready to make some adjustments, depending on what kind of weapon I get. Meaning, maybe if I would have gotten a junkies or bloodied version, I probably would have changed a little bit here and there. But other than that, with the mutants effect, I didn't really need to change anything. And as you can see here, especially when killing mobs, yeah, we really have no problem whatsoever. The weapon has a good damage output, good precision. I really can't say that there's anything I would say strikes me as desperately bad or anything. Um, Obviously, it would be nice to really see how this weapon performs if you can actually mod it the way you really want it, meaning that you have something like an aligned automatic barrel combined with an aligned stock or a precise stock, probably in the better version, and yeah. But at least we have the reflex sight, which is obviously the first step here, or basically the most important one. This one I really wanted, and I found that with, I don't know, what did it take, like 3 or 4 server hops at the White Spring bunker, and I was able to get this weapon here. So as you see, I have a lot of fun, actually. As you see, the weapon works very well. You can have a real fluent gameplay. Now, I played a combined time of probably like 15 hours with this character, and 2 to 3 hours of them were with this here weapon especially. And honestly, as stupid as it sounds, but I actually prefer this weapon here over the quad 25-25 version of a standard plasma rifle. So yeah, just prematurely looted this guy and just saw that it was cloaking, so it's definitely script. But yeah, I have a feeling that it's even a power armor piece, which I have no use for probably because I have both legs already. Yeah, really interesting part about the new update here, legendary power armor. I'm quite intrigued to see once the first people are going to get really nice combinations here. I'm talking about a full set of Sentinels armor maybe. Yeah, could be really interesting what people will come up with. For example, what could be interesting is a chameleon set. For those of you who are interested, I actually did a power armor stealth build, which worked. I don't want to say it worked well because it's quite stupid and unnecessary, but it actually worked better than I was expecting. So could be interesting to see how much you can push this idea with a full chameleon set, which should definitely make a big difference. So I guess you can probably get away relatively well with it. But yeah, we'll see in the future. I'm not really looking into crafting legendary power armor en masse or anything, but yeah. Back to the video here. There's another guy. I think we are done. I mean, I think we are done, and then I am surprised by this guy here, but I think we are done. And yeah, we're going to take a look at our mutations now and everything. I hope you enjoyed the video so far. I really think the gameplay speaks for itself. Um, okay, this guy here is interesting to take down. Not quite sure why I'm not overweight anymore, but well. I'm quite surprised actually by the amount of legendary power armor I already gotten. I feel like I have gotten like 2 legendary armor pieces and something like 15 legendary power armor pieces or something. So that's quite surprising. I thought it would actually happen relatively more rare, but yeah. Anyways, we're now going to take a look at the mutations. So here we can see them. If you count closely, you will see that indeed we do have 6 mutations here. We run with Adrenal Reaction, Bird Bones, Eagle Eyes, Egghead, Marsupial, and Speed Demon. So right off the bat, Adrenal Reaction and Egghead are not really necessary here. They are just leftovers from other builds that don't really hurt us anyway, though, and therefore I left them in. Well, Egghead is just nice for some more intelligence, and we don't really do anything with endurance or strength, so we can gladly accept those debuffs. And in terms of Adrenal Reaction, while we get a little bit less HP overall, yeah, we have one perk installed that basically heals us once we reach 40% of our health, I guess. So we can find ourselves relatively often during fights at 50-60% health, at which point we already get quite a good buff from Adrenal Reaction, so it doesn't really hurt to have here. The more important mutations here, though, are Bird Bones and Eagle Eyes. Very easy combination when you're going for a Vets build. These should probably always be there, unless you're making a very specified melee build. But even then, I would argue that you probably want to have them. Basically, what you want to have is the extra agility from Bird Bones really helps you have a bit more action points overall. And yeah, those you can use for vets, so that's very straightforward. And Eagle Eyes is very self-explanatory. Extra perception and crit damage is a very easy pick when you're going for a vets build, meaning you have better accuracy and more damage overall. And lastly, we do have Marsupial and Speed Demon. Not a lot to say here. Pretty generic mutations that I always have. Basically, yeah, more jump height is always nice to have, and Speed Demon, while it's just 20% extra movement speed, it really you can really feel it, and especially the reload speed is also very nice to have. So not a lot to say here, and let's move on to the equipment. So first of all, we're looking at our plasma rifle here, a Mutants recoil compensated automatic Enclave plasma rifle. Quite a mouthful. As you can see there, it breaks 50% slower. We have primed it, and then we have better bats crits, and most interestingly probably is the last effect, mutations effect, mutants effect, sorry. 5% extra damage for each mutation, and what the effect doesn't tell you, I only noticed from the patch notes, basically is, yeah, this should cap out at 25%, so 5 mutations is all you need in order to get maximum benefit, unless I have understood something wrong here. Please correct me if I do so. As you can see, brings us to a damage of 68 and 71. Possibly, no, pretty much sure that we don't have adrenaline effect going on, so this should be the standard damage output. And yeah, on the right you can see the modifications here. Prime capacitor, true automatic barrel, so better hipfire accuracy, stabilized stock and reflex sight, so nothing too crazy. As I said, the most interesting thing is the reflex sight here. And in terms of armor, we do have a set of 4 pieces with Vanguard AP refresh combat armor. I think like 2 or 3 of them are heavy and the others are sturdy. And I was wrong here. 3 of them are Vanguards and the other 2 are weightless. And the last one here is a 1-star weightless. So yeah, the important thing is we have 4 AP refresh pieces, which work very well with our build here. If you're interested here, we do use shielded long johns, so extra perception, agility, and luck. Go for any shielded radar armor that you like here, but obviously perception and agility are very nice, and even the luck, extra luck can help us. Enclave, Intel Officer Hat and Uniform, and the Flamer's Backpack. We do have a Grosser's modification here, no, sorry, Chemist, so we reduce our chem weights, which is kind of necessary on this character because I have like 1,000 Stimpaks or so, which I just can't get over my heart to drop, even though would definitely be the more sensible option. And now we're taking a look at the perks here. We do have Bandolier, which is obviously not necessary if you want to use this character as I do here, because our ammunition is energy ammo, so it is reduced by its weight by another perk, but yeah, I couldn't walk otherwise, so yeah, I left Bandolier here. But other than that, you could go with one strength, really, and just find something that you can use. Definitely nothing you desperately need here. In Perception, I went with a rather straightforward combination of Master Commando, Commando, and Expert Commando at rank 3, Tank Killer at rank 3, and then I split up Concentrated Fire and Ground Pounder to use 1 rank of Concentrated Fire and 2 ranks of Ground Pounder. Reason for this is very straightforward. On automatic weapons, Concentrated Fire isn't as crazy as it once was, so you really don't get a whole lot of a benefit from upgrading it to rank 3, so you might as well run with rank 1 just in order to have the ability to target specific limbs, which you always should have if you want to use VATS, obviously. And the other 2 perk points, since we have a relatively small magazine size and we are reloading relatively often, I think that rank 2 of Ground Pounder is a sensible option here. You could obviously go for rank 3 of Concentrated Fire and don't use Ground Pounder, but that's just personal preference, and overall, in terms of DPS, you definitely have a benefit from using Ground Pounder. Then we go on to Endurance, where we can see we do have 8 Endurance, rank 3 of Adamantium Skeleton, rank 3 of Fireproof. So Adamantium Skeleton, quite straightforward, not getting crippled, meaning your gameplay is a bit more fluid, you don't have to take a break to use a Stimpak every now and then. And Fireproof is relatively straightforward, reducing damage from explosion, meaning you basically don't have to worry about super mutant suiciders, explosive cars, explosive legendary robots, which are kind of tricky, so they can really surprise you if you're not really looking for them. And yeah, if you're good at maps, you probably see that 3 plus 3 doesn't equal 8, so there's room for other perks. But this is something in Endurance I sometimes do. Honestly, I didn't want to use 2 of my level ups just to get something in Endurance, because there's actually nothing we desperately need here. You could go for whatever you like here. One sensible pick could be Cola Nut, which would actually fit very well, rank 2 of it. So you have a better means of healing and even more AP refresh if you want to do so, but I'm sure you find something here. Overall, after my build was finished, I just had these 2 perk points left here, so I figured they are well spent in Endurance, just so we can have a little bit more hit points and counter the debuff from Adrenal Reaction a little bit. But yeah, you will see we are using a lot of perk points from Legendary Endurance, so chances are, sorry, from Legendary stats, so chances are you might not even have all that much perk points over, so feel free to just take them from Endurance. This is just a little bit of a convenience here. Then we have the also familiar combination of Tenderizer and Lone Wanderer, which I use very often in Charisma, basically giving us better IP refresh, further synergizing with our powered pieces of armor, then a bit less damage overall, which is nice. We are not really tanky. Basically, our basic approach to surviving situations is by attacking very fast and killing very fast, so best defense is a good offense in that case, but doesn't hurt to have a little bit less damage. Obviously, if you want to play in a team, use something else. Use something like Strange in Numbers and maybe Inspirational. That would basically be my general approach if I wasn't using Lone Wanderer. So all combined would give you exactly 4 points. So that would be a niche advantage here, a nice advantage here. And Tenderizer, pretty straightforward as well. It's just a very good damage boost. It's still multiplicative, and yeah, on an automatic weapon, it's a pretty much a no-brainer in my opinion. I very rarely run builds without Tenderizer, especially if I'm using something automatic or fast firing. Then we do have Intelligence, which is at 6, relatively low, but keep in mind we have a little bit of a buff for it from Egghead, even though we have another debuff from Marsupial, but overall we're still gaining a bit of a buff due to our mutations. I use it for batteries included and first aid. Batteries included, usually I would say it's like a convenience perk in a lot of situations, especially if you're using fusion cells, because they tend to be relatively lightweight anyways. But in terms of plasma cartridges or ultraside plasma cartridges, you really probably won't be able to walk without batteries included. Those cartridges are really heavy, so I'm running around with something like 2,000. Probably now it should be something like 1,000, and they still weigh like 5 pounds or so, just even though they are reduced by 90%. So it's kind of ridiculous. Maybe we take a look at it at the end of the video. And the other thing I was using here is first aid. Pretty straightforward. Um, Increases the amount of HP that our Stimpaks heal, which synergizes very well with Bone Survivor, which we have here in Agility. So we have it at rank 3, which is a bit unusual, but honestly, there's nothing else I would have used it for. Maybe I could have gone higher with Gun Fu and just used Bone Survivor at rank 1. But on this occasion here, we are relatively squishy, so um, if we are getting a Stimpak injected at 20% health, it could very well be too late for us, just because, yeah, keep in mind, your Stimpak doesn't heal you completely immediately, it heals you over time, and if you are under attack and are already at 20% health, it's possible that an enemy out heals you, and having a Stimpak go off at 40% health already reduces the chance of dying, the risk of dying very much. So on this occasion, I actually found that rank 4 was a relatively good idea here. Then we do have Action Boy just to double down furthermore on our AP refresh. So far we have 4 pieces of powered gear, we have Lone Wanderer and Action Boy. So that's how you get your AP to refresh so fast. Like, there's not a lot of room for improvement. Obviously, we could have one more piece of powered gear, but yeah, that's pretty much it. We could try to be well hydrated the whole time, which would be another huge buff. But other than that, yeah, that's probably maxed out. Then we do have Gun Fu at rank 1, something I do very often. I rarely use the perk at higher ranks. Basically, it's similar to Concentrated Fire. The most beneficial thing about it is the sheer fact that you can use it, not that it gives you an extra damage buff or anything. So yeah, makes the gameplay more fluent in my opinion, even though you can definitely see the extra damage from time to time. So yeah, I will take that. Rank 1, pretty straightforward here. And lastly, I went with Adrenaline at rank 5, pretty straightforward, gives you a damage buff in a lot of situations, I would argue even most situations, because even if you're fighting a single target like a boss or anything, very often they are accompanied by a lot of small critters, so you can just every now and then stop fighting the Scorch screen, for example, and kill something in the meantime. So there's that, and yeah, White Knight. So this is definitely a full-on convenience perk if you want to use it or not. Depends on you, but I tend to use it relatively often when I'm not using a stealth character, just because I hate to always repair my weaponry. Um, I often run around with like 3 broken pieces, anyways, and you're still capable of being alive very well. So you can definitely live without White Knight. Was just a convenience choice I went with here. Um, you could go for something else, but honestly, there's not a whole lot you can or you would use probably, so therefore White Knight was a sensible pick in my opinion. And lastly, we do have luck here. Um, we have luck at 14, could obviously go to 15 just to give you a little bit more VATS crits, but I found that it worked relatively well here. We do have Grim Reaper Sprint. You can live without it on this occasion. It's definitely a possibility just because your AP refresh is so fast, but I tried both, running the build with and without Grim Reaper Sprint, and Without Grim Reaper Sprint, I found myself every now and then having like little hiccups in my gameplay. So using Grim Reaper Sprint in addition to all this fast AP refresh really made the whole gameplay more fluent, if that makes sense. And then we have better criticals as well as critical savvy, which is a very standard combination for any VETS character, in my opinion. Um, VETS criticals only consume 55% of your critical meter. Bit of an odd number there, but yeah, basically cut your or basically you're doubling your VETS crits very on a very basic level. Um, it's obviously not working out exactly like that, but yeah, overall definitely helps you. Has the best returns for 3 perk points in my opinion when it comes to critical hits. And better criticals is self-explanatory. We get critical hits every third or second shot, so therefore, yeah, boosting their damage by 40% is definitely a nice thing to have. And then we do have Starch Genes, very straightforward, always there just to keep our mutations, especially important in this situation, just because our um, damage buff for the weapon comes from the Mutants effect, which requires you to have 5 mutations, so healing them would be kind of terrible for us. And lastly, I just popped in Four Leaf Clover. Um, doesn't have the greatest effect because we're already running Critical Savvy, so it's not that necessary. But on the other hand, just on the off chance it triggers every now and then, it definitely gives you a bit more damage overall. So what you could do on this occasion is run Bloody Mess for just a very flat bonus in damage, even though it's not a whole lot here. Quick Hands could arguably even be a good decision. Luck of the Draw was something I was considering, or even go for something like Ricochet or Class Freak, but to be honest, I found that I wanted to invest a little bit more into crits, and it felt okay to use. So therefore, I left it in here. That's just something I went with. But yeah, if there's anything in the build that you can freely decide to change, I guess Four Leaf Clubber is definitely a good contender for that situation. And lastly, we are going to take a look at our legendary perks. So there's not a whole lot to say. As you can see here, we just boosted quite a few of our stats with legendary perks, and there's not a whole lot to tell here because it just gives me access to more perks to use. And the only other thing I used here was Water Rats, which is just there for convenience. Like, you know the thrill. On this occasion, this doesn't give me any like nice synergy like with Ghoulish or anything, but it's just there to, well, not having me to bother with rats all the time. So yeah, pretty straightforward and easy. Not a lot to talk here. Now, I did actually remember to firstly look at our ammo situation, so I can tell you we started the video with around 2,200 ultrasight plasma cartridges. So, as you can see there, we went through around 700 of them, which actually for, yeah, 15 minutes of gameplay, where we were basically doing nothing but killing stuff, I think that's okay. It's not crazy, definitely manageable. And in terms of condition, we lost about 30% of the condition bar, I would argue, something like that. So definitely it's okay. Um, big part due to the legendary effect that we're having, obviously. And yeah, what there was one more thing I wanted to take a look at, wasn't there? Hmm. Guess we never find out. You probably hate me if you watch the video so far and I yet forgot it. Well, hmm. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and well, um, just as for the near future, sadly, I didn't have luck. No, I don't want to change my ugly looks, which are very well covered by our gas mask here. I wanted to take a look at this here thumbnail, basically. Yeah, I sadly wasn't really lucky when it came to alien blasters. I basically crafted a 3-star version of the alien blaster 3 times now, and all of them were pretty garbage. 2 of them were zealots pieces, so really depends. Maybe we will see a build with the plasma with the alien blaster in the near future, but Other than that, I will definitely take a look at the Facebreaker, which is a pretty cool quest reward. Not the craziest thing in the world, but I really love the skin, first and foremost. And other than that, yeah, I want to take a look into a Bat's melee build relatively soon. I already have a good weapon here. I just have to think about how I'm switching up my perk points. And yeah, other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I really had fun with it. I think, as I said, the gameplay speaks for itself. There's not a lot to talk here. The weapon works well. If there's a key factor, in my opinion, it definitely is the AP refresh. So this is nothing you can like naturally grow into by using a new character and building up to it, in my opinion, because yeah, if you don't have a lot of AP refresh going on, using this build really is more frustrating than anything. So I would really just use this build if I actually had access to at least two powered armor pieces, which shouldn't be a big problem. But anyways, that's basically the key factor here in order to make this thing work, in my opinion. And yeah, for the third time now, I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time, guys. Bye.